girl.
And one, they gonna give you some money too?
I don't know, but I just know the recognition is what is just, it's a pleasure to know that somebody is recognizing me for my effort.
Right.
That's
Amen.
that's money to me. That's
I'm gonna
gold.
be there.
Thank you.
And the media is
I'll
going to
be
be
there.
there, and it's going to be wonderful.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's gonna be there, and I
So
hope.
sorry that I outed you, Wanda.
Thank
I
you.
see
But
a
you
lot
know,
of
that's
people. I don't recognize a lot of people.
actually that's what cultural competency is. It is acknowledgement. Wait a minute. It is acknowledgement, attitude, awareness, and skill.
Yeah,
You know, the people who are really doing the work,
yeah,
who are really doing the work, should be honored. So that because people have seen this woman, everybody know what she's doing, and it's almost like we're teaching our young people that if you the less you do, the more recognition you get, and the
and
people
that's
who
the
work hard
wrong
don't
message.
matter.
We don't want to send that message.
Yeah, we have to change the message.
We have to change.
Congratulations, Wanda.
Thank you.
Wow.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
Wanda, tell them your guests that talked about mold. Who are they? Because Lorenza came in late.
This Louise and Oteria, is it Oteria?
Oteria.
Oteria. They talked
Yeah.
about the situation that Louise has experienced with mold in her building. And her building was right there on Madison and Ashland. And I've seen that building pass by many times. As a matter of fact, I think one of my reporters that moved to where did he move? Missouri. No, I can't remember where he moved, but he moved out of that building. And I remember that building. I just would never have thought that CHA tall high rise would have had mold in it because
Me too. Me too.
I never would have thought that because I thought
Me too. I
inspection.
was so shocked when I found this out.
Yes,
Tell
yes.
them a little bit about what happened, Oteria.
Oh, yeah. So my grandmother had the situation where she was mold. The same pictures again. We do have new people. If you can see here, that's the top of her wall with the mold going across up here.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing anything about it. So we contacted Andrea, of course, and she contacted the alderman, and then they were able to move her out of the apartment after we had already been waiting a couple of months until then for them to finally do something about it.
See,
Could I ask something?
sure.
I used to work as an engineer for the Chicago Department of Public Health
Oh,
down in Springfield at the Illinois Department of Public Health. And it's your local health department, and you have a county too, that should have some sort of mold hotline, um, because they set the municipal laws. I mean, they have a relationship with city council, that sets the municipal laws on making complaints with the health department. And you might want to check because they're on Ogden, and I've worked over that Ogden facility in that big medical complex. On the west side, Chicago has a distinction of having the largest medical complex in the country. All those veteran administration, Brown, CPH, all kinds of stuff, because I was born over there. And that, but there on Ogden is where CDPH is at.
okay. Okay. We probably need to make that call, like you said. So
Those are important resources,
I put out my profile there as a text
in the chat room.
In the chat,
Oh,
yeah.
Open up the chat room.
okay.
I mean, it's
I
just
hope
a
that-
text. I sent a text, in the chat.
Okay, it's in the chat. Okay, as long as it's in the
Oh
chat.
yeah, we have the other one too with Lavette. We have her thing too.
Okay, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, other questions, other comments, because it is now 7:26.
Well,
And
people should contact me if they want me to help them. I might be able to find a way to, locate where you would make a complaint, and there might be a national laws, federal laws that
Yeah,
come into play as well.
Luanza,
But-
put your name and number in the
I
chat.
have my name and number, my profile
Yeah.
in there, so.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, what were you gonna say, Andrea?
I was just saying that he needs to know that they had it solved and she's fine now, but I'm trying to copy the chat and I'm not able to copy it.
I'll send it to
Oteria,
you.
do you know how to copy everything in the chat? And then I can't figure out how to do the copy.
You right click.
Okay, I'm gonna do, I did my
Well-
right thing and it erases it.
Well, what you're supposed to do is with your pointer, you're
If you
supposed to,
right
go,
click, it should
this is
say
what you
copy
do. This is what
link.
you do.
Did you do it, Oteria?
Yep, I'm gonna email it to you.
This
Okay,
is what you
thank you.
do. Do Control A. Control A will
Control A as in
highlight,
Apple?
yes, Control A will highlight all of the text, and
Okay.
then you right click and copy it.
Ah, he's right.
But every time I right click, I'm on a laptop and every time I right click, it just takes off the copy stuff.
Okay, then don't do it that way. Do Control A and that highlights all the text and then type Control C. Well, you don't have to touch the mouse and it will copy everything into a clipboard that you can paste into a notepad or Word, wherever you want to do it. Control A will highlight all the text and
See
then Control C.
Okay. Well, anyway, Oteria, you could promise me that you'll help me?
It's already sent to you.
Amen.
Come on, girl. I love it. I love it. You know what? I'd like to invite you, Oteria, if you'd like to have a column in our paper and to be able to write about what your grandmother did and what the results. And then I'm going to showcase my story and hey, we can be in the media. And then I will share that with 2579 and let's get it out there.
I'll help you, Oteria, write it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna start me a
these.
chemistry lab. I was gonna start me a lab, a chemistry lab.
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. This year, my car, they ran into my car and totaled my car,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I saved the money to buy me a new car. But instead of wasting my money on a car, I work from home. I don't never go nowhere. I'm gonna use that money to buy me laboratory equipment that I used to work with to do testing and mold and stuff like people's house. Maybe have an ad, and I can go get samples and test them and tell them.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Come on now, Louise. I've been inviting you for a while to do something with the paper as well. I mean, you're a scientist.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, let's put it out
This
there.
work
But
that I
yeah,
have,
you
it
should
takes
put
so much of my
you
time.
should put at least 200 words into it that you did what you did in the chemistry industry, and it would be Louise Oteria's article, Wanda Carter's article, and your little points of view on that chemical stuff, with mold and stuff. I think it's going to be a great news. When does it print? What's the next print?
It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can put whatever we want up there whenever we want, and people can go to the website and read it. You can send it to your family, to your friends. It's all online. All we have to do is organize it, put it together, and put it out there.
Great.
Are
you taking poetry? Because I got a lot of student poetry.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Why don't we get some of your students to write? We need to get some of your students to write.
But I'm not as much in the classroom because I'm
That's all right. You
but I've got their writings.
Okay, let's publish them. Let's publish them.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited.
And Karen, we need to have that positive stuff. We have plenty of bad stories to talk about.
That's right.
We need positivity. We need creativity,
Yeah. And Livette has.
I have no bad.
You did
stories.
What?
I have none. I have no bad stories.
All right.
With my children.
Come on.
I don't have it. It sounds.
Your voice going in and out. Karen,
But we
you
love
done?
it.
Look, so that's what we're gonna do then. So that's the plan. And I will when I edit this show and send it to YouTube and the Facebook and Twitter and all those places, I'll send it to you. Andrea, and you can share it with Ontaria. Is it Oteria?
Oteria.
You know, I had an idea
All
Can I
right.
I want to just say that,
every time.
you know, because it's Black History Month,
Yes.
you all are invited to our Black History program. Wanda and I are on the Garfield Park Advisory Council, and Westside Cultural Arts Council is an arts partner at Garfield Park. And this Saturday, we have the African American Village Market where Black vendors will showcase their wares. And then at 1 o'clock, we have a magician. His name is the Spellbounder, and he is honoring Richard Potter, who was the first Black African American magician in America.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
the village market starts at 10 in the morning. I'll be there. Wanda, I'm not speaking for Wanda because she's so busy, but I'll be there. And then at noon, the entertainment starts, and we are celebrating Black magicians and Black musicians.
Come
So
out, come out.
That's so interesting. That's
and it's
so
all
interesting.
free. It's all free.
It's all free.
And it's
But it's only
parking.
Saturday.
Yeah.
It's
The
Saturday. Well, you know what? I'm there every Saturday because I operate Kaumba Saturdays, and I have books that I share, give away, sell. There's I interact with a lot of little children who are fascinated that their parents would buy them a book. It is just wonderful. So every Saturday I'm there from 10 until 2, and we're talking about the cultural programs at the Gold Dome. We're looking for other partners to come and to just be there and be in a safe place where people from all over the world, I got people from 3 out of state places that came and visited us. So that's what happens during the day. The conservatory is right down the street. And so we're in the same park, and we're intermingling because the architectural building is a wonder.
It's
And people come
beautiful.
in just to look at the building. So that's our home. Wanda is the chair of project development. And so things that you want to talk about with her, that's what she does. And then she's also co-chair of communication. And I am second vice president of the Garfield Park Advisory Council. So we are growing, and that's where we do get a lot of stories. And one of the things that Wanda can talk about at a later time, and maybe sooner than later, is that the publication, the media part of this, the broadcast, podcast, it needs funding. So we will develop a fundraising arm that would help fundraise so that this media can remain an institution. So look out for something that will come from us, and you can share it with others. You might want to buy your own commercial. It's going to be 30-second commercials, 1 minute, and so you might want to have an idea where you want to get your message across, and so that's going to be an opportunity.
That sounds wonderful. But again, it's this Saturday that is going to be at noontime, there'll be the Black music, is it?
Magicians. It's a tongue.
And it's the first, and one of the first, honoring one of the first Black magicians in the whole United States, right?
Yes. I put something in the chat that I would like you all to see. Okay. You know, the first Black woman, her name was Jenny Lagan. She was the first Black woman to be given sign a contract in Hollywood, and it was by MGM. They paid that lady $1,250 a week. This had to be back in the 30s. She used to dance with Bojangles and all of that. Yeah. and guess what? She was from the south side of Chicago.
Well, you
Wow.
know what? You need to come Saturday and share that with our children.
Yes.
You need to come share that. So I look forward to seeing all of you. And Andrea, thank you so much for inviting Louise and Andrea. I'm bad with names.
Ontario.
You're
Oteria.
fine.
But I want you all to think about the column, and let's do that. Let's
Yes.
get the word out. Let's get the word out. And thank you so much, Livette, for reminding us about the Saturday piece. And Karen, we look forward to seeing you there as well. And you know, we've always talked about you having a column because you're an educator, and we want to make sure that our children's work gets out there. So I invite you all, okay, to take
And
part.
she's going to have an exhibit.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Greetings. Join us for our Black History Program celebration this Saturday, February 24th, 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. at the Garfield Park Gold Dome. Yes, we have a plan for a child, woman, and man. Peace, love, art, and nature. PLAN. We got a plan, so let's begin. Peace in the neighborhood. Love for the misunderstood. Art for the young at heart. Nature, thank the creator. Peace, love, art, and nature.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Neurologic Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joseph Kappas, and today I'm here with Dr. Javen Moore. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, man. I'm excited. I love this topic.
So today we're talking about something that I don't think we've actually touched on the show yet, but that's mold toxicity and how that affects the brain and the nervous system. So I'm really excited to hear what we have to talk about today. Before we get into that, though, can you give us a little background information on yourself and how you got interested in working with mold patients?
Yeah, so, I was in chiropractic school and I was about 23 when I started. By the time I reached 25, my body was just not what I knew it to be. I started dealing with more pain, brain fog. I wasn't gaining strength anymore. I was honestly feeling like I was losing strength. I was getting injured. And then erectile dysfunction hit, and my body just, 25 years old, you're like, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. And as I go out and talk to doctors, they're just going, oh, that happens sometimes, just take a medication. Well, I go to functional medicine and they're going, well, take these supplements and you can put a Band-Aid over top of it. Or look at blood sugar or something. And that just wasn't turning out. It wasn't giving me results. So from there, I ended up figuring out Lyme disease was a big piece of my puzzle, and working through Lyme disease actually made quite a bit of a recovery. But within Lyme, they were like, so when do you think you got bit? What was the onset? And I remembered back to staying in a duplex that was an issue with mold. Like there was 3 or 4 inches of mold. You could see growth on the baseboards going up. And I can remember pushing water toward the drain because I'm in the basement. I'm cheap in college, right? I'm not trying to spend money. So I can remember back for me that mold probably was a piece of my story. It wasn't the one that I knew about the most, at least at the time, but it's a piece of my story. And as I got into Lyme, as clients kept coming to me, especially ones that wouldn't get better with conventional treatment, wouldn't get better with functional treatment, wouldn't get better even with decent Lyme treatment, it led me down this path of what else is there. And that's when mold really came on the scene for me. It's this inflammatory, neurologically damaging, mitochondrial suppressing, just wrecking ball that destroys the body. And from there, mold is now a big target for me. If it's in the labs, if it's in the testing, it's a big target for us to make sure we take care of.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely something that I think is gaining more and more attention as the years go on. How prevalent is it actually in the US at least, or maybe the world?
Geez, the EPA, I believe, came out with a study a few years ago, and it said 50 to 70% of buildings are mold toxic, or where there's enough mold that would affect your body. So 50 to 70% of buildings, and these are like the big federal buildings, your schools, your hospitals, your federal buildings, et cetera. So it's extremely prevalent, and it's getting worse. And part of the reason why it's getting worse is because well, there's some suggestive studies showing that EMFs affect it. So electromagnetic frequencies, Wi-Fi's, 5G, et cetera. There are some other pieces of the puzzle, like we're making our homes, our buildings airtight, right? So we're making them to where, one, if there's a water spill, it's not going to get evaporated out, right? There's not air moving through it. I remember old houses that I've been in, you hear the creaks, right? The air is blowing through it. You can hear it in between the rafters. Now that's not a thing. Now they're sealed. And so when mold gets in there, it just sponges, mold grows. So anywhere where there's water and we're putting water, there's more bathrooms in every house. There's more sinks in every house. And I was building a house for my wife, and she's like, well, I want a sink in the pantry and in the kitchen and in the laundry room, and I want 4 bathrooms. It used to be their outhouse outside, and that's the only water. So that's part of the reason why it's getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with that, how might someone know to even look for mold if as part of their symptomatology? What symptoms might they be dealing with?
So the starting symptoms might be a little bit of breathing trouble, maybe a little bit slowed down on your body, right? You start getting a little bit of some dark circles. You're a little more tired, brain fog a little bit. Maybe you're getting more anxious. I see a lot of neuroinflammation, so anxiety. That can lead into autoimmune encephalitis, which is a whole nother diagnosis of the immune system creating inflammation based on an immune reaction, right? But those basic symptoms would be breathing, fatigue, brain fog. You might get some numbness at extremities, and then even rashes can start to develop, partially because of the mold, partially because it suppresses your immune system and allows yeast. And the last one that I see, honestly, is one of the biggest reasons people come to me is they've tried everything else. They've been to your regular doc, your funk doc, your diet, exercise, lifestyle, Lyme docs, and they haven't seen the results, and they're just like, what's missing? Why can I get a little bit better, but it never sticks? Well, maybe you're looking at mold. Maybe that's the piece.
Right. And I guess once somebody does maybe rule out everything else or come to you or someone else to get mold treated, how do you then test for it? How do you treat it? Does it look different for every patient?
So there's definitely some complicating factors out there that make it a little bit harder to find. There are a lot of good tests out there that you can run, but you have to understand what they mean. So let's go through a few of them. There's blood tests. You can look at C4A, VIP, MSH. These are tests looking at inflammation, immune system response, to understand how you're responding to a stressor usually. So a lot of those blood tests are stress responses. So I also look for a more suggestive side of things, a low liver. So looking at AST, ALT, LDH as being low, or alkaline phos being low. I can look for cholesterol below 160. So these are some markers that start suggesting that the body is under a great deal of stress. Like you went up, your body tried to fight, and now it's on the way back down. You might have POTS, mast cell inflammatory response syndrome, which all of these are different diagnoses showing that the body is stressed out, weakened, and wore out. And then if you want to look more directly at mold, you can look at things like a urine test, so a urine mycotoxin test. There's several companies out there running them, Vibrant America, Great Plains Laboratory, Real Times Labs. Each one is better at certain strains of mold. So for instance, Great Plains Laboratory often identifies ochratoxin A, whereas maybe you go over to the Real Time and you see a little bit more on the black molds, the Stachybotrises. And honestly, my favorite right now is the Vibrant America test. However, it's also the most expensive. It covers 34 different mold types, and it measures them to a smaller particle size. But of course, more testing, smaller size equals more money. So you've got to just kind of look at what fits your client when it comes to that, because sometimes the urine mycotoxin test isn't necessary. We know you're inflamed. We see mold in your house. Okay, let's take care of the mold first. That can be one of those options. And there's some other tests that are a little suggestive that I like to run. An organic acid test and a hair tissue mineral analysis are some tests I like to run, and they can give me suggestions. So for instance, if you show up in your organic acid test with, well, certain markers. There's 4 or 5 that will suggest aspergillus colonization in your body. So that's just infections. Then you can look at, do we have oxalates? Do we have a methylation toxic exposure marker? Do we have ketones or Krebs cycle markers that are showing up where they're out of range? If you have those markers, it can be suggestive of mold. If I have more than 2 markers that are associated with the mitochondria specifically, so that's ketones or Krebs cycle, these are cycles of energy production. If you have more than 2 markers positive in that, and there's about 20, I start going, mold's a high possibility. You get more than 3, I'm going, it's either mold or it's a radioactive element like uranium, radon, radium, which can actually be in our ground supply for water or in our basements. So I know I've just listed off a lot of tests. And the reason why I list off so many is I see a lot of clients coming in and I just look through their labs and I go, okay, what is really common to present when this person's dealing with mold? And I've kind of put together that these are common, so that then it leads me to, is it worth running the more expensive testing? Is it worth sending an inspector into your home? Because those things, you know, can be costly. Maybe I want to run a Lyme test instead if we don't see some of those other markers.
Mm-hmm. And then once you do identify the mold, you mentioned, you know, you obviously want to take care of it in the home. So I guess my questions for you would be, how do we best safely clean our homes to remove any mold? Do we need to contract out for that? And number 2, what would you do from a metabolic standpoint to support that?
So if you're going to deal with mold, most of us, unless we are pretty skilled labor, we really want to contract out for mold remediation. If you go digging into mold and you take a saw or a grinder or you know, whatever it is that you're going to cut with, you're just going to spread mold everywhere. So when you see mold that's this big on sheetrock, you need to cut a 2-foot barrier around it, that whole big hole, and then you get rid of it, because this is a million colonies right here in this little black spot. And then outside, it's just lowering in the amount of colonies as it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want to spread mold mycotoxins and spores all over your home by going and cutting this out without creating some sort of barrier, some airtight sealed barrier. So I actually had mold in my house, and one of those symptoms, you know, like I didn't even know it. I had no idea. But my wife, she, on the other hand, started getting headaches and migraines, experiencing some fatigue and depression. And she's just like, what's going on? This is not normal. And I was thinking the same thing. I ended up moving some curtains and we see some mold because the curtain had trapped in some moisture from the window through the winter. And what I ended up doing is I created a plastic barrier to which we plasticed it all off. And then the only air circulation was out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So then in this entire plastic room that I created, I completely covered myself. I cut 2 foot around this, pushed the material out the window so it could not go into my home or get on my carpet, get on my clothing, get on my mattress, whatever. And then after that, we vacuumed all that out. We closed the plastic up, we removed it, and then you can go back in and you can repair it. But this is a small piece of mold that we found. And then from there, did it contaminate the house? Did it contaminate the clothing, the bedding, other parts of the home? So getting a professional in there that can answer some of these questions for you is going to be really important, because for very sensitive people, those people that are highly reactive, that if you walk into the mall and you go past the candle shop and you react, or if you walk into somebody's home and has a little bit of mold, you get a migraine. Those people are going to have to be a little bit more protective of their health. They're going to be a little more protective of, I'm probably going to have to get rid of anything that absorbs moisture, at least away from it for a long enough period of time that you can get your health and strength back up